Shazam is the antithesis of Captain Marvel. These are two superhero movies that couldn't be further apart. Now, I'm not just talking about on the surface. Yes, Shazam is a 14-year-old boy and sometimes a 30 or 40-year-old man, and Captain Marvel is a 30-year-old woman. That is quite a big difference. But underneath those little surface differences, their characters are completely different. The actual movies themselves are complete opposites. What goes on? Is there a character arc? Is there not a character arc? Who's funny? Who isn't funny? Everything is exact opposite. The main difference is that these characters are polar opposites. Here is Shazam.
I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please.
He's got a mischievous little grin on his face there. He's doing something he shouldn't be doing. That goes in line with how a lot of the film goes, okay? That is classic Shazam there from the film. That's exactly what you get. Now, what do we get with Captain Marvel?
Where's Fury?
That is generally described as being the best line in the movie. That is taken from Captain Marvel from the end credit scene where she's asking, where is Fury? And if you read a lot of reviews, this is what people will say is one of the best parts of the film. Okay, now, when I originally saw the film, I did think that that was maybe the best line she did, but when I saw this recently, I can't believe how bad it is. I know she's generally bad in all of the movie, but I did also think that that was about one of the best delivered lines she did. I might be misremembering because I've read some reviews since I saw the film, but I thought that that was one of her better parts, and that is that's terrible. And that there really highlights the differences between Shazam and Captain Marvel. Okay, the actual portrayal by the two main characters. Now, I don't know too much about the comic books, about what these two characters are. I don't know if Captain Marvel was an authentic version of the comic book version of Captain Marvel. I don't know if Shazam is an authentic version of the comic book Shazam. I don't know about that. But what I do know is that this, just as looking at two different characters, this is a big problem for a movie. Okay? There is something to Shazam. There's some acting going on. There's something there. There is a personality there. There is a character. And you've got absolutely nothing for this person here in Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is bland during the entire film, and again, that line there is generally viewed by a lot of people as being a well-delivered line by Brie Larson. And it is so much worse than I remember it being. I hope this is an authentic cam from the movie and someone hasn't doctored this to look worse than it really is, because it's so bad. I really don't remember it being that bad as I thought her performance was. Now, if we get to other things in the actual movies, if we put aside the character problem of Captain Marvel and look at what else is basically the exact opposite between these two films, in Captain Marvel, there is no antagonist. There is no one for Captain Marvel to go up against. Now, it may be a cliche for all of these superhero films to have a supervillain, but that is kind of what's expected. You have someone to put your superpowers against. What's the point of having all these abilities if you don't have anyone that actually has other abilities for you to beat? And so in Shazam, as anyone that has seen any of the trailers at least, if you haven't actually seen the film yet, you'll know that there is a bad guy in Shazam, and when Shazam first tries to fight him, he thinks he'll get him easy, he swings a punch, and the guy grabs the punch, and then, basically goes downhill from there. The bad guy has all the same powers, he's bulletproof, he can't really be hurt, he can shoot lightning out his hands, he can fly, but they can hurt each other. And so although they're both basically invulnerable, they can actually hurt each other, and they could actually kill each other. Whereas in Captain Marvel, there just isn't anybody. She has powers at the start, she's invulnerable, she can shoot stuff out of hands, and then later on she unlocks the rest of her abilities and she can now fly and she can probably shoot a lot more powerfully, but it's a little bit vague as to how powerful she is at the start. But she essentially has powers, has nobody with powers to fight against, and then gets more powerful and still has no one to fight against. She just fights against a lot of just normal people, basically. A lot of Kree soldiers is basically who she beats up all over the place. And that also is another difference. If you actually look at Captain Marvel through a different lens, you can easily see that Captain Marvel's actually a bad guy. Captain Marvel isn't a good person. There isn't really anything to highlight in the film, or there's not a lot to highlight in the film to say this is a good person. Now, if we look at Shazam, Shazam is gifted his powers, and all this is basically in the trailers, unfortunately. The trailers really give away too much of the film. I know a lot of movies do that nowadays, but pretty much everything in the film is in the trailer, nearly. But anyway, the little boy, the 14-year-old kid, he gets given the powers by the magical shaman guys, by Shazam, because he is pure of heart, because this guy is basically deserving of the powers. Whereas Captain Marvel got her powers because she was next to a lightspeed engine she shot and it blew up in her face. Now, Shazam himself doesn't use his powers to inflict damage on anybody in the film except for the bad guy. Now, he does accidentally hurt a few people when he's discovering his powers, and I think all of that's also in the trailer where he discovers he can run really quick, he's got super speed, and he knocks over some people and stuff. And so there's some incidental damage that he no way means to do, but that is it. He doesn't go around bludgeoning people or beating people up. Even when there are two stereotypical white bullies at his school, he doesn't use his powers to directly beat them up at all. Brie Larson, or not Brie Larson, but Captain Marvel, on the other hand, beats up everybody, no matter who they are, and doesn't really care what's going on. She switches sides from fighting for the Kree against the Kree just on a dime. She doesn't really have any moral compunctions about damaging property or hurting people, and she hurts a lot of people. So, how social justicey is Captain Marvel versus Shazam? Now, Captain Marvel, I don't think really is that social justicey as what a lot of people make it out to be. Yes, there's a female in the main role. The main sort of feminist thing in the film, I think, is that Samuel Jackson is playing a lady. So Samuel Jackson is a cat lady now. He's completely worthless in the film. He doesn't beat anyone up. He gets beaten up all the time. He has some security clearance, and he gets duped into allowing Captain Marvel to go with him to a secret base, which he really should in no way have ever let happen. Other than that, he carries a cat around. So yeah, that's a bit offensive, what they've done to Samuel Jackson. If we look at Shazam, what exactly has Shazam got going for the intersectionalists? To start off with, we have a white male, so that's obviously a big problem for them. And the film doesn't really push any kind of overt political agenda, at least not one that I really picked up on. So there are a couple of little bits, but I don't think they're that bad. So I think in general this film will be hated by the sort of cultural Marxist crowd because it's not pushing their political agenda. So I don't think it pushes against their agenda as such. I just think there isn't much of an agenda here, and it has got a white man at the front, so you know you can attack that all the time. Now, it does have a white male as the bad guy, so they'll like that. They like putting white men in as bad guys. That's an acceptable bad guy. That's there. And he also has a very diverse set of foster brothers and sisters, so they've went out of their way to make sure they tick all the boxes there. He's got a black female, a white female, Asian male, a Latino male, and another white male. So they might not like that there's two white males. It's two more than they'd like. But it's ticking most of the boxes, and at the same time, it's still allowing some white people in there. So, I think they'll hate that. The white social justice warriors don't like seeing white people, and that'll probably upset them. So, from that point of view, it's the opposite of Captain Marvel, but it does have a sort of diverse crowd there with his foster parents and so on. He also has, well, at the end of the film, he turns them all into superheroes, so he has them as superheroes as well. So it's a diverse group of superheroes that help him out. Presumably they'll be in Shazam number 2 if the film does any good at the box office. And something that these people will hate is the uniform that they get on. So everybody wears a uniform basically the same as Shazam's uniform when he promotes them, or whatever you'd like to call it. It gives them the power. But the white female gets a skirt. So she has got a skirt on. The black female didn't have a skirt. She had on a pair of pants. But the white female got a skirt. None of the men got a skirt. And so I bet that will be a focus point of rage online. That is completely sexist. Why has the girl been given a skirt? Why are none of the boys being given skirts? This is unacceptable, masculine, toxic masculine, 2019. So, from that point of view, I guess that's the opposite. Captain Marvel doesn't have a skirt on, that's for sure. She wears some denim in some sort of uniform. So, there is a feminine quality to Shazam. Not Shazam the character, but the film. Shazam also tries to pick up some chicks. He does a very poor job of it. He does a bit of a, hey, how you doing? But he does do that, so that's probably considered, hashtag me too, don't talk to women. That's talking to women is rape. So that's probably frowned upon as well, whereas obviously the exact opposite happens in Captain Marvel. She doesn't show any interest in anyone in the film, and no one in the film shows any interest in anyone else at all. The characters themselves, well, one has no character and the other has a character. That is the difference there. Captain Marvel has no character at all, whereas Shazam has a character. Shazam also has character flaws. There are no flaws of Captain Marvel because she has no character. You can't have a character flaw without having an actual character itself. Captain Marvel can't do anything wrong and has nothing to overcome. Whereas in Shazam, Shazam's basically a 14-year-old boy. He's homesick's not quite right. He's been abandoned by his mother. He thinks he's run away for his mother, but it turns out his mother's actually kind of abandoned him. And he's been in search of his mother all his life, and he doesn't like the foster families, and he doesn't like the foster quote-unquote brothers and sisters around him. And his story arc is basically he learns that his mother abandoned him, and his foster family's not that bad, and he actually grows to like his foster brothers and sisters. Whereas in Captain Marvel, the story arc is she's powerful, and she gets more powerful. That's the actual story arc. So again, completely opposite in what's going on. Captain Marvel has no bad guy. Captain Marvel has no personality. Captain Marvel has nothing to overcome. Shazam has a personality. Shazam has a bad guy to defeat. Shazam has to overcome something. And lastly, what else is a complete opposite between Captain Marvel and Shazam? Well, one of the films is good and one of the films isn't. So one's good, one is a good film, one is not a good film. I'll let you decide which one I think is good and which one I think isn't. But that there in itself is also something that is complete opposite between these two films. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.